Okay, so I don't know what the heck happened. I can barely remember what happened in this book, but the parts I do remember were so boring. And do you guys know how much that hurts me to say that? It's like inflicting yourself with a splinter on purpose. I loved the first book. I loved the second book. Kaladin is bae. For this one, no, baby, no. What is up, you guys? It's me, your girl, your Casey. How you doing? But who really cares? Because what happened? I mean, 1,200 pages. You had 1,200 pages to work with, Oathbringer. And this is what you gave me. So let's just say this is definitely a spoiler rant. Because you shouldn't be watching this if you haven't read the first and the second book. And I need room to vent without worrying if I'm ruining the story for you, even though I probably am, because I'm going to tear it apart. But this book was the equivalent of dragging your legs through the swamp, big swamp. What's that swamp called in Princess Bride? The fire swamp. But instead of fire swamp, it's just a regular swamp. And I have loved slow books before. If I have engaging characters who I love, I will slog through the slowest book just to be with them, and I love these characters. I love all of them except one, but it's okay because he bit the dust in this book, so I was happy about that. But the payoff did not justify the slowness. Now, before I get into this, what went wrong and why it's horrible? Well, it's a 3-star in my opinion, but a 3-star in the Stormlight Archive is like a 1-star in my brain because Brandon Sanderson, you're awesome, but what happened? So, short summary, we finally got to that mythical city, Eritharu, who knows? We're starting to bring our little radiants together so we can form the ultra awesome attack force to save humanity and stuff like that. Meanwhile, Kaladin is flying. Our boy learned how to fly. He's like a really angry Peter Pan now. He's flying off to Hearthstone to go warn his parents, hey, stone monster invasion, prepare thyself. Shallan's doing some more super duper spy stuff. And we have a murderer on the loose, technically two, because Adolin killed Sadius, which I did not expect to happen and I loved, but now we have someone or something copying the murders in like fits of violence that's happening in Eritharu. So now we have that on top of that and top of that. So we have political intrigue as Dalinar is like, plotting and like subtly taking over the throne, but he's like, no, I don't want to take over the throne, but he's doing it anyways. We have the sneaky murder plot, we have the Kaladin plot, we have the Parshanti. I still don't know if that's how you say it. It's probably not, but please forgive. Parshanti. Can I just call them the Parsh people? That's easier for me. Anyways, it should be a grand tale. Should be. It wasn't because the characters. It's like if Brandon Sanderson walked up to his characters, lovingly placed his hands on their shoulders, and gripped down hard, kneed them in the crotch, and just ran off. And now they're just gasping on the floor, stuttering. That's this book. Yeah, just yanked the rug, all the motivations, all the development from the other 2 books, right out from underneath them. What I loved about this book, little as it may be, Dalinar and Odium. I have been longing for Dalinar's story since the beginning. Because, who's his wife? Why can't he remember? Why'd he make that deal with the Night Lady Watcher? Secrets I must know. And I got them in this book, and I loved it. I loved young Dalinar. He's exactly like the kind of, edgy action hero who walks out of an explosion with like chaos and fire erupting behind him and he doesn't look back. That's young Dalinar. That is my jam. I wouldn't change a thing about that. I love Odium because he's such a... Odium means hatred, and he's like, it kind of gives me a happy old man kind of vibe, like nicely malicious, innocent mischief. I'm trying to think of words. But then when he gets angry, he's like... So I'm a fan. And what plot and like revelations we did have in those many, many scenes of just sitting around a chamber and talking politics. My favorite. That part of the story building was very good. Like the revelation that, oh, we aren't the natives, they're the natives, we're the invaders. That left me with a, I get it now, but also like, well, where'd you guys come from sort of vibe. I still don't know. I've only read these 3 books of the Stormlight Archive so far. I haven't read Edge Dancer. I need to. Because I like Lift as a character. She's nice. But so much has been revealed in Oathbringer. And I don't know what's going on, really. But I'm here for the ride. And I know all these books of his take place in the Cosmere. So I'm like, okay, I've just read the Stormlight Archive. So all these questions I have are answered in the other books. Like Mistborn or something like that. And I asked a friend who has read all those books. And I'm like, hey, so this question I have about Odium, is it like solved in another book? He's like, no. We all don't know what's going on. So I got questions, and I'm going to stick around because I need those answers. Well played, Sanderson. Elkahar, or whatever you call him, Elohar, whiny king, he died. Good. We had the fighting scenes I loved, especially the finale fighting scene. Like that bit about Dalinar and Odium, like, oh, join my side, Dalinar. And Dalinar's like, I cannot. You will, because I'm a god and you're immortal and I tell you what to do. That scene, I liked. But then when like Dalinar was suddenly channeling the Almighty, I was like, what? I thought he was dead. I don't know what's going on. I don't, but that really fast pace, like hopping back and forth between all the point of views we had, I really liked it because this was a major battle, a lot of characters, lots going on, lots of pieces that have to come together. That was great. And also, just bravo to the fact that Dalinar decided he wanted to learn how to read and write. I approve of literacy. Great. However, Dalinar is the only character who retained any semblance of who he used to be in the first and second books. There are primarily two things I did not like about this book. Characters, namely two, and one certain section of the book where a good chunk of it did not need to exist, and I'll get to that last. However, the characters, besides the usual Sanderson wanting to introduce every single person in all of the Cosmere into his books, so many interludes, so many random people that I have to know now. It is the old faithful, old gang that got the bad end of the stick in this book. Chiefly being my girl Shallan. I hate her now. Congratulations. You did this to me. Like, seriously, what the heck happened to her in this book? Maybe it's my mistake, but I thought the end of the second book put her in like a good place. We got her backstory. We made her go through some awful memories and feelings. She basically shattered, but she got so much stronger from it. Like, she addressed a pattern, her spren. She's like, I hate you, but you're a necessary evil. And he's not really a necessary evil. I love him. But he represents something super painful from her past. So she's like, averse of it, but she accepts her past. She doesn't hide from it anymore. So I'm like, okay, Shallan, book 3, you're gonna be queen. You're gonna just take over the kingdom, aren't you? In book 3, we have a whiny girl having multiple personality crises. Crisi? Like, she is no longer Shallan. She has to hide behind all of those personalities she can conjure with her abilities. Light weaving. She is radiant when she needs to be, dignified in front of Adolin and stuff like that. She is Veil when she needs to be sneaky and tough. Shallan, the girl who went through all that great stuff in the second book, is the weak one now. Honestly, where did this come from? It ruined her. She was so annoying to read from. I'm like, girl, obvious message here. Be yourself. That's it. Me and Shallan kind of started off on a rocky relationship in book 1 because Kaladin was my favorite, and whenever we weren't in his chapters, we were in Shallan's, so she, in my mind, was taking the screen time away from Kaladin. Book 2 is when I really began to love her, and now I hate her again. Well done. I honestly don't see the point of this entire, it's not an arc, it's more like this kind of arc, I guess. Just, then, But what was honestly the point of Shallan's whole debacle? If you're new here, I don't say words right. What was the point of her whole identity crisis, besides the obvious be yourself message at the end? Because that's highly original. Never seen that before. So that was one point of view ruined. The other one, I never thought I would say was a bad part of the Stormlight Archive. Kaladin. So what do we do with the most developed character in this series? Do we give him more chapters? More things to do? No, because he's the most developed. We can just shove him off to the side and focus on all these other characters, like Shallan's multiple personalities, and just leave him behind. That's it. That's what happened. Kaladin is the Kaz, Six of Crows Kaz of the Stormlight Kaladin, the Stormlight Archive. Both the main characters, both the least screen time. Like Kaladin, any scene he was in felt so rushed. Like, we had a bunch of stuff to just talk about in this book. We had alliances to forge, battles to plan. We had an entire city to kind of just do city stuff with, plan, where are we gonna plant our crops this summer? Stuff like that. But Kaladin, let me just take you back to part 1, okay? Kaladin's flying to Hearthstone to go warn his parents that, hey, the Parshmen is going to be a giant Everstorm, High Storm, whatever it's called, and it's going to make him go psycho. So, he gets there, he finds his parents in the manor, Vershon's manor, taking care of the wounded and stuff like that. He reunites with his parents, which I was surprised both parents were still alive. I felt certain it would just be the mom and his dad would have already died. But no, I was happy. I'm like, good luck for Kaladin at last. Kaladin also punches Rashon in the mouth, which I was a great fan of. Good for him. But then what happens in this manner? Kaladin meets his new baby brother, which was so sweet, loved. Then his dad's like, you're no longer a surgeon. "You're a murderer." And Kaladin's like, "Yep, and I'm saving other people from being murderers." Stuff like that. Then he leaves. That was the reunion we've been waiting for. Like that. Then, what happens afterwards? Kaladin somehow gets captured by the Parshanti, the ones that were recently freed from their slave forms. Yeah, he gets captured by them. Then he forms a friendship with them. Then he leaves. Same thing. Like that. Is this like the friendship we've had with Syl, with Teft, with Rock? No. Does it happen like that? They cooked some meals together. The Parshanti took him to the war camp where all the war form and storm form Parshanti were. And one of the Parshanti was like, "Hey, I recognize that man. Storm Rider, Stormwalker, Surgebringer," one of those words. And Kaladin's like, "Oh dang, I have been found out." And then he leaves. That's it. And then we're supposed to feel connected, a bond with the Parshanti he bonded with for like 15 pages, which I didn't. Same deal much later on, where Kaladin joins Captain Azur's squadron, I guess, the city guard, and he bonds for 5 pages with her men, and then, oh no, guess what? His little group of Parshanti and his little group of those squadron men, they fight, they all die, and Kaladin is like, "Oh, my friends, I hate war." And I'm like, you barely knew them. I didn't even know them. Like, it was supposed to be a good moment. But because for some reason, Kaladin is the super rush perspective, I didn't bond with any of these people, and I did not care that they died. I cared if Kaladin died, because I still love him. But he'd been done dirty in this book. Additionally, the second point, do you know what could have solved this? To give Kaladin and his Parshanti friends more time together, instead of just slapping some campfire, quick bonding, and then rushing off into the wilderness. Part 2 of this book, about 50% of it did not need to happen. Because think about it, what's happening in part 2? We have some Dalinar backstory, good. Shallan's doing some sneaky existential crisis things. Ugh. But then, what else is happening? Bridgemen flying montages. That is it. Now, in books 1 and 2, I thought the side characters, even without being in their perspectives and their point of views, were insanely fleshed out. They each had their characters, personalities. Lopin was my favorite. However, for some reason in this book, in part 2, Kaladin, he's like a radiant. He can somehow, I still don't understand this, he can bestow his powers upon his closest friends, and now they're called squires. They have the same radiant powers, but if Kaladin isn't near them, they don't have powers anymore. So, Bridge 4, in part 2, they're just learning how to fly. But guess what? In the point of views in this chapter, the narrator, the point of view that we're in, isn't the guy flying. He's the guy sitting on the ground watching the other people fly. And he's just thinking, "Oh, what a beautiful day, what a beautiful life, oh," all that stuff. So for these chapters, these montages, because it's literally them just flying, no, it's them watching someone else fly, and then they're just like sitting, internally thinking, that's it. Boring. We already had fleshed out characters. We honestly did not need any of these chapters. And you know what they took away from, just because they existed? Having more fleshed out Kaladin and his new friends of the Parshanti moments. Honestly, the only thing that I can think of came of use from those Bridgeman 4 montages was the fact that, I think it was Teft, Fire Moss guy, he lost his coat. I think that was the only plot-driven motive behind those scenes. In those montages, like, I'm calling them montages because that's literally all they were. They weren't intense training. They were just watching people train. That's it. And Kaladin is there, but again, shoved off to the side. I think the main issue of this book was putting the spotlight on the wrong characters. Dalinar, fine. Shallan's issues really came out of nowhere to me. Like, I don't understand the purpose behind it. It wasn't, like, her powers are original, but the issue we're dealing with, you don't have to lie to be liked, be yourself. We've all seen that. Kaladin, my broody angel, beautiful baby, he was barely there. And towards the end, when he's like trying to speak the 4th ideal words, something like that, he fails, which I liked, because you don't succeed every time. There's always the next book. Oh, now I'm thinking about it. You know who also, didn't get any screen time? What's his name? Renarin? I like him, but he's never there. Same with Kaladin. My favorite scene in Words of Radiance was when Kaladin, Adolin, and Renarin fought together in the arena when they were outnumbered. That was such a I got your back bro moment, and I loved it. I would have honestly loved more of that bond building with people we already knew. And for part 2, We should have got rid of the Bridgeman 4 montages, thrown it away, and we should have did 2 more things. We should have allowed Moash, you know that guy who betrayed the king and ran off with the shard plate? We should have had more of his perspective, because, like, we only had, like, what, 2 or 3 of them? He just, like, betrayed humanity just like that. He joined the Parshanti. I would have loved to see more of him, because he's just there for, like, a brief moment, a brief important moment towards like the middle battle of the book. He kills Elhokar. Good move. I applaud that. But then we never see him again. So, replace the Bridgeman scenes with some Moash scenes. We could have had Kaladin having more of like an argument with his dad during that reunion. Like, yes, this is me now, but I am still your son. I have chosen to kill, but to not let others get killed. More of that stuff. Because his dad just let him run off. Just like barely stopping with his like bad choices. I would have loved to see more of that drama. Also, can we just address the fact that at the very end of the book, Siveth joins the team and no one bats an eye? Like, this is the man who murdered our previous king. We cool. So, this book has things I love, but also a lot of things I hate. That's why I'm gonna read Drums of War, Rhythm of War, the drums of war. Because I want to know who the champion's gonna be. If there was one thing I would change in this book, I would have made Dalinar Odium's champion. That there would have made a good book for the fanfic. Anyways, guys, thank you for just listening to me venting my questions out into the world. Why did this happen? If I'm wrong, you know what the comments are. Tell me I'm an idiot. I feel like an idiot. I am an idiot. But a justified idiot. Stay reading, my friends.